This tutorial is for people who want to make a vlog for their Module 2 project. In this video, we're going to cover, some of the basics of how to film and edit a vlog. We'll also talk about how people use vlogs. We'll look at a couple of examples. And we'll also talk about how the format is, kind of changed over time. So to start with, let's talk about what a vlog is. Originally, it was kind of the video answer to a blog, right? A blog is a web log. A vlog is a video log. And in its initial iteration, the vlog was kind of intended to be sort of like a day in the life type of thing, where a person would simply share their experiences day to day. So to look at a classic example, this is maybe one of the most popular vloggers of all time, which is not to say that I'm necessarily a big fan of Casey's content, but he was somebody who I think was instrumental in popularizing the form early on. And so we're going to go back in Casey's history here, and we're going to look maybe at an older vlog that kind of captures maybe when he was sort of at the height of what he was doing. He's kind of fallen off on the daily vlog type thing over the last couple of years. So let's see if we can get a good New York vlog from him. Well, here's one with a pretty clickbaity title. Let's see what Casey's doing in this particular video here.
Like 50% sure these are fake cop cars. Let me see what happens if I try and get in one. I'm in the cop car. This is not a real cop car. That is a picture car. Just movie props. I promise I didn't just get in a real cop car. That was NYPD. That was not a real car.
So you can see what he's doing here. He's on a motorized skateboard. He's got a camera on a selfie stick. You can see the reflection of it in his eyes. He's moving through the city. He's making observations about things that he's seeing. He's trying to create an interactive and, I think, compelling experience for his audience.
There's a picture car. Just a joke.
So Casey is by trade a filmographer, so he's very good at shooting video. These are probably the strongest aspects of his work here. He does these kind of montages set to music that kind of show the character of the places that he's exploring in his day-to-day vlog. Because he's a New Yorker, he really tries to capture the energy of New York City.
How you feeling?
Fine right now.
Going to Francine's school orientation. This is a very big day. So, it went well. It's really strange because Franny is a baby. I still see her as a baby. Yet, when she goes into school, she turns into like this adult. And she gets...
So here Casey is talking about, his kids, his family. That's a big part of Casey's vlog. I don't think he shares as much of that as he used to, but his experience as a father, his experiences as a husband, sharing all those things. And also too, you can see that part of what Casey is doing here is using a lot of fast, dynamic cuts to keep your attention. He's not necessarily lingering in any one place or on any one topic for long periods of time. He's moving pretty quickly through things here. And that, I think, is emblematic of this type of vlog and how this type of vlog works. It's not really a static production. You want to be moving through time quickly. You want to be giving the audience the idea that a lot of exciting stuff is happening very fast. This is probably the most challenging aspect of creating a traditional type video log. But I don't really think this is how people are using vlogs anymore. I think video content on the internet has changed a lot. And one of the key changes, of course, is that it's become kind of more cordoned off into certain maybe like topics or topical areas, like with other kinds of content. So here we're going to look at, you might not consider this a traditional vlogger, but this is kind of where internet video content is now. And while Hank does share some of his day-to-day life with us, he's most famous for this Ask Hank series that you see in his highlights here, which is where people ask Hank, who may or may not have taught you biology, questions about science, and Hank gives, usually kind of pithy answers to those questions and makes things kind of entertaining and adopts maybe even a little bit of an acerbic or a confrontational personality in the delivering of the scientific the scientific information. So we're going to take a look at a video that I think represents more what people are doing with video content online right now, which is this Do Wasps Have a Purpose video, a very recent video by Hank. Let's make sure we've got sound first.
They don't even make honey. They just be in there doing it.
I get the confusion, specifically because bees are such hard workers and do so much for us. But here's what's up. The bees don't do it for us. The bees make honey for themselves and then we steal it. Bees don't pollinate the plants for the plants. The plants pay the bees in nectar to do the pollinating for them. It's an exchange. The bees are in it for themselves. And just like the wasps are in it for themselves, kind of get this idea sometimes that like every animal has its place to fill in the ecosystem. And like that's true, but only because they're there now and so they are part of the ecosystem. If you take them out, it does mess things up. So what purpose do wasps serve? They serve a purpose for themselves. They are trying to exist, to continue existing, and to have their species continue to exist. That's what natural selection is selecting for. So they're not in there doing some bullshit. They're in there making babies.
I was like, what purpose do they serve?
So the question here, what purpose do wasps serve? And Hank uses this as an opportunity to talk about, maybe a misconception that people have about ecology. The idea that we're part of this kind of perfectly balanced, a symbiotic system of living organisms. We're not. We're all driven by that impulse to self-sustain, and so wasps don't need to have a purpose for human beings. Their self-driven purpose is enough to justify their own existence. You can also see that Hank is sharing, some of his personal life here as well. Obviously, he talks about being a teacher, but he's also talking about what he's going through right now. He was diagnosed with cancer. He's now in remission, which I believe is not posted here on his, it might be in his stories. But yeah, he's in remission currently, so that's good news. Hank does most of his work in Reels. Here you'll see when you look through his feed, he doesn't have a lot of traditional posts, that he's mostly making Reels. If you wanted to do your vlog on Instagram Reels, that's a perfectly fine way of doing it. And if you wanted to set up some kind of, audience creator interaction like this, where you are asking folks to give you questions that you can then answer, that's perfectly fine too. I think that's actually like a really good way of creating a sense of community with your vlog, which is what you want to do. So we're going to talk about two different modes of creation here. We're going to talk about vertical video creation and horizontal video creation. Vertical video creation is what we expect from Instagram Reels. Usually it's shot with a camera phone. You can see the front-facing phone. I don't think Hank, uses a lot of, production value or anything here. I don't even think he's using a ring light. Maybe he is. I'm not sure. Whereas horizontal video production tends to be maybe a little bit more heavily produced. Usually the camera work is a little more sophisticated, and the editing is probably more sophisticated as well. Horizontal video would be good for, a platform like YouTube, where this is how the videos display. So this is Simone Giertz. I'm sure many of you have heard of Simone's work before. She's most famous for creating what she calls shitty robots. So this is an example of one. He's building a custom scissor lamp with Simone Giertz.
On to the regular video. Hi.
Again, here you can see she's sharing a little bit of her own kind of personal life, introducing her dog there.
It's just combining two different things. Matches, coffee table. Paper shredder, brain. Tesla, pickup truck. And today, we're taking lamps and scissors and forcing them together.
So here you see she has like a pretty good articulation at the beginning of this video of what her general approach is, her creative approach, her stylistic approach. You know, she's just looking to combine two things that you wouldn't expect to combine in order to create a ridiculous robot.
Consensually forcing them. Initially, I was thinking like, what if the handles were light bulbs? Or what if the scissors were just wall mounted and it was backlit? But then I realized, ooh, I already have a giant version of that. Past me beat current me to it. Makes absolutely no sense. So what I settled on was this, and here's my prototype. In here, there would be LED strips. So to turn on the lights, you just open them, and then to turn them off, you close them, so you can literally cut the lights. This is just thick paper that I laser cut, and I got this sheet metal, and I just need to transfer this design onto this, and then grind and weld and line.
So obviously Simone is coming from a mechanical and electrical engineering background here. That's the skill set that she's applying to these videos. Obviously she has a lot of knowledge in this area, but she's also just using this as an opportunity to have fun, which I think is a fine thing to do. And you can see from the popularity of her channel, she's got 2.7 million subscribers, that other people like it when you use your expertise to have fun as well. So that's not necessarily something that you should shy away from, simply because we consider the hard sciences to be kind of a serious-minded set of disciplines. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be a serious-minded set of disciplines in how we kind of engage with them, with people who do not have expertise in that background. And I think a lot of times people who do have expertise appreciate the play even more than those who don't, because they kind of see the underlying expertise and cleverness underneath it. So we're not going to watch Simone's whole video here. We're just going to scan through it. She shows you how she makes the prototype. Here she's using music and montages and cuts in the montage to give a sense of time passing throughout the day without, necessarily showing you the entire day.
So cute.
We like it when people struggle. We don't like it when things are too easy for folks. So she's showing a little bit of the things that she's had a hard time with here. It's endearing. It's something that also communicates the level of care and work that she's putting into what she's doing.
I'm getting disproportionately frustrated with this. But it's kind of like trying to ride a horse that's just trying to throw it. Yeah, it's essentially just two pairs of scissors, and one is outboard of the other. Does that make any sense? The really tricky part of this is going to be welding all of it.
So you can see too, she's got a pretty, sophisticated workshop here with a lot of tools. I understand many of you wouldn't have access to something like that for this kind of a project in our course, but there might be resources on campus that you can mine to get your hands on some stuff like this.
Scissor sandwich, no matter how hard I try to mount it. I'm proudly giving up, and I'm just gonna buy a lamp. There's something wrong, and that it's gonna have really bad consequences if I screw up. Fingers crossed, no smoke, only light. Why? Every time. Can't I just have something work for the first time? When you see my lift rockers, do people just mean dads?
And finally, we see the lamp brought to successful completion. It creates light. I don't know if the mechanism works quite the way she said it would in the beginning,
I could just buy it off of myself.
but
Thanks, me.
she's got a relative success here at the
Thank you so
end.
much for watching this video.
But the idea is that she's made something pointless, something that nobody would probably really want, that she probably doesn't even really want, but she just wanted to have the experience of making it and sharing it with you. And this is good, horizontal type video content. This video is 11 and a half minutes long, so it's pretty substantial. There's lots of opportunity in there for time lapses, montages, cuts, music, all different things that can be engaging in a multimodal kind of way. And the project itself is something where once you see where she's going with it, you want to see how she's going to pull it off. It's interesting content. Whereas when we're talking about vertical video content, I think Nina's Instagram here and her work on Reels are a really great example. I shared this in another tutorial. We're going to talk about this same video here. I'll do some quick analysis once we watch the video.
I talked about how a camera in 1957 was able to capture a flying manhole at 1,000 frames per second.
Not sure where the recorder at 1,000 FPS comes from, but it's very misleading. In 1957, there was no camera capable of doing that kind of slow motion.
Nope. Actually, you're really wrong. Way before the 1957 nuclear test I talked about in my last video, in the 1930s, Eastman Kodak already created a camera that can run 60mm films at 1,000 frames per second. The camera was purchased by Bell Telephone Laboratories, now known as Nokia Bell Labs, and they developed the camera to be able to do up to 5,000 frames per second, and they named this camera FastAct. And June 23rd, 1950, Bell sold this design to Wollensak Optical Company, and they improved this camera to do 18,000 frames per second. You see, the invention of high-speed cameras was needed for nuclear bomb testings. In order to create a nuclear reaction and achieve critical mass, a piece of plutonium that's about the size of a baseball had to be compressed, I'm running out, into half of its size. And they would do this with an array of explosives. 32 to be exact. All 32 of them had to be triggered within 1 microsecond, so they needed to use a high-speed camera to see how effective this explosion around the core was. Thus, there was a ridiculous amount of progress made on high-speed cameras at that time. And now you know.
Okay, so the reason this is such a savvy video by Nina, it's for a number of different reasons. The first is that she's doing something topical, right? This is around the time of the release of Oppenheimer. It's one of the most popular movies in the United States right now. She's a US-based creator, so that's going to appeal to a general audience. She's talking about something related to the movie, and here she's talking about the 1950s nuclear tests, which is the subject of the movie. But the other really savvy thing that she's doing here is she's responding to a comment that she got on her last video. So she's creating kind of a sense of dialogue and community with her audience here, even if it's to kind of dunk on this one particular audience member who seems to have tried to mansplain the topic a little bit to her. You can also see that Nina is doing something in the video and in the thumbnail too, which I think is pretty savvy, which is introducing her dog. She's got this cute little Shiba Inu here. She's feeding it treats to keep it on camera. She uses it to make a little bit of a joke, and I think that's something that's pretty endearing. People like dogs. Putting it in the thumbnail is such a savvy move. That's not what all of Nina's content is about. A lot of her content is about being a computer scientist, a programmer for, I believe she works for Google. She talks a lot about just technology in general. I like this video about ChatGPT that she's done.
ChatGPT's performance is getting worse. A new study from Stanford and UC Berkeley came out recently, where they measured the performance of ChatGPT in March and June of this year in 4 subjects: math, dangerous subjects, generating code, and visual reasoning. I read the paper, and TLDR, the performance on almost all subjects have decreased. But in particular, I just want to highlight the code generation performance is really down. So to my fellow software engineers, rejoice, because we're not gonna get replaced yet. But also cry, because now ChatGPT can't help you solve your coding issues. But I think likely what's happening is...
So she goes on here, but we're not going to watch the whole video. I want to use her example in addition to the Hank Green example, because you can see that they're doing some pretty different things here in terms of the production of the video. Nina's videos are relatively heavily edited for such short form content, and I think this is something that has kind of come over to Instagram from TikTok, and with the creation of Reels on Instagram, it's definitely an attempt to kind of mirror the sort of content opportunities that are happening on TikTok. Nina also posts on TikTok. I don't use TikTok. I don't have an account, so I can't really look at TikTok content with you. But I think this is a really good example of, if we're looking at a third kind of platform here, this is the kind of content that you would want to be creating on TikTok. I don't know if Hank is dynamic enough for TikTok in terms of his video production and presentation, but I think that Nina absolutely is, and I imagine that her content is just as successful on that platform as it is here on Instagram. So that takes us to the how do we make this stuff portion. So we're going to talk about making horizontal video first, and when I make videos for you all on my little YouTube channel that I use for this class, I'm making them in iMovie, which is like the most basic way that you can possibly make video content. All right, so the example that we're going to look at here, this is a not really like a full music video. It's just sort of like a visualization that I created for a song that my old band released last year. It's got footage in it from my trip to, you'll see it's mostly from Griffith Park in Los Angeles, California. The song is about time. It's about a relationship with time. So of course at Griffith Park they have this cool clock, that a mechanical clock that measures down to the minute and hour, but also time on a much larger scale than that. And I also played with some footage that I took of the camera obscura and tried to layer those two images on top of one another. Normally when you're making one of these projects, what you're going to do is start by putting some source material into your media library there. So let's see if we've got anything that I can do here. These are all PDFs. I do have this goofy video that I made of myself playing basketball. That's based on the Thick Boy meme. I'll include that in the media library just to show how you can put things in the media library. And now that I've done that, it's actually populated with my other videos that are in the media library as well. So I probably can go ahead and delete that one. If you can find my Instagram, that's on my Instagram if you really want to see it. It's just a goofy joke. But from here you can see I've got two video sources, one audio source. This is the song. These are the two video clips that I'm layering on top of one another and juxtaposing. You can see this is the camera obscura filming the LA skyline, and then on the other side the mountains and the wilderness, and then this is some footage that I took of the mechanical clock and the mural on the ceiling of the Griffith Park Observatory. So you'll see what's happening in this video is that I've got multiple video tracks going. I've got two, and they're layered on top of one another, and how I've done that is I've played with the opacity of the video. So we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves here, and I'll show you how that's done shortly. But first what I want to do is just show you how to do some basic editing. So I'm done with this project. It's been exported. I don't need it anymore, so I'm going to mess with it. So let's say I want to change this first part of the video and I want to do something new with it. So I'm going to bring this media, I'm going to drag it down, and tell you what, let's get rid of the camera obscura too. Let's work with just one track here and see what we can do as simply as possible. So we won't get into the audio yet. It'll be there when I'm playing. There's audio on the track, and so that's one thing, or on the video I should say, that's one thing that you want to pay attention to. If you don't want that audio there, you're going to have to mute it by dragging that little thing down, and I'm going to do that right away. So one of the things that I would be doing here is trying to make some cuts. Making cuts in iMovie is very, very easy. Let's say that I decide swung back and forth once, I want to loop that. I want to make that repeat. So I'm going to right click, hit split clip. I'm going to get rid of what's after it. I'm going to take this part and I'm going to paste it. So now we'll have this one clip where it swings to the right, swings to the left, jump cut back to swinging to the right, back to swinging to the left. Okay. So that's how you make edits. It's really, really easy. After you've edited a piece, you can change the length of it, you can extend it, you can drag it back, whatever you want to do. And that's the simplest editing mechanic, and really kind of the only thing that I think you actually need. Other things you'll want to consider: what's the cropping of the video? Do you want it to fit? Do you want it to fill? Or do you want to do a Ken Burns type thing where it starts in one place and ends in another? So if I change the endpoint for, the zoom here or the cropping, it's going to start wide and it's going to move into a tighter shot as we go, which is not to say that what I'm doing here is, particularly artful. Usually when you were doing that, you would do it with, somebody talking, and you would kind of zoom in more on their face or your own face, whoever it may be, as you're talking. So you can do some color balance things here. So for instance, if I want to work on the white balance here, it's going to select a color from the video frame to be my white. I'm going to choose this right here. And you can see it doesn't make too much of a change in the video, but if I change what is my white, then the colors shift a little bit. I actually like that kind of darker hue to it, so I'm gonna keep that there. You can also do some manual color manipulation. This brings all the saturation out of it. This amps the saturation way up. You can change the tint settings, more of a blue, more of a red. And these settings here are different contrast settings that change the way the color or light relationships work. I don't think you have to do a ton of that with vlogging. I think if you light your shot well, then you should be fine, which calls into question, how do you light your shot well? I use a ring light. I've got this thing right here. Essentially what you want is for your light source to be pointed at you, and you want it to be even with, or you want it to be in front of the or even with or behind the camera. You don't want it necessarily to be in front of the camera. The idea is that the light lights your face, and that allows the camera to kind of accentuate the best parts of your features or whatever. There's also some colored lighting going on in my room right now, so this isn't probably the best video lighting that you've ever seen. It's just an example. Another thing you can do is you can create facing a window. So you see I have my blind down right now, and you can see the video is kind of, not very visually appealing there. It looks kind of grainy, but when I lift that up, there's some natural light hitting my face, and if I get the right angle, and it looks pretty good, even though I have to squint quite a bit because it's very bright. And if you have good lighting, you don't have to do a lot of this color correction and image correction stuff. There are effects that you can add. One thing you might want to take into consideration here is, the speed. If you're making montage, slowing things down, speeding things up could be something that you might want to, try to do. Something like that. I don't do a lot of that kind of video editing in my work, simply because I'm making, mostly front-facing talking videos, which don't really call for that sort of thing. Here I'm layering a couple of different videos on top of one another. I can't remember where the setting is, but there's somewhere here where you can control the opacity of the different videos. I can't find that necessarily right now, but it shouldn't be too hard for you to find by exploring these menus here. If I was able to do it, you can do it. I'm not very a very sophisticated video editor at all, but you can layer different videos on top of one another for kind of a cool effect. And then the last thing here is including your audio as well. So this is as simple as just dragging and dropping. I have my song loaded into the media library. They give you a separate audio track. Again, you want to make sure the audio on your recorded video is down, and you can include any kind of audio that you want. If you want to do things like manipulate the volume of the audio, or maybe have a fade in here, let's have a long fade in where the audio gets gradually louder. You can do that as well. Another thing that I do often in video creation is I use Canva as a way of making short design-based videos to stand as things like title cards or bumpers. So this is just a video that I made in Canva that I can pop at the beginning of my tutorials, so that there's kind of, just an identifying marker to show what we're working with. Maybe the only other thing that we would want to talk about in vertical video creation here would be, let's look at Simone Giertz again. And let's look at what she does with her thumbnails. So, the first thing that she is doing in order to get your attention here is she's working with, just concepts that are interesting and entertaining. But she also does a good job of making thumbnails. Thumbnails are very important. It's the first way that somebody kind of encounters your video and what it will be about. So, here, she's not giving the title of the video. The title of the video is I built an exoskeleton for my 3-legged dog. The thing in the video is this took months of training, and training is very, very large here. So it's kind of like a little hook to draw you to the video. There's bright colors. You get the image of the dog there. The robotic leg here, or the exoskeletal leg is circled in bright yellow. It's a good thumbnail. It's eye-catching. It's going to get your attention. So you can see that some of her other thumbnails are kind of less sort of ornate, but still, quite interesting and compelling, and kind of things that would make you wonder, like, what is this video going to be about? Those are another thing. I would make them separately in Canva. You can do them as short video clips to put at the beginning of your clip, or, you can do it as a still image if you want. This is a CapCut. This is another video editor, and the reason I'm recommending this one is for if you're going to do vertical video, is because I have not found a way to do vertical video editing in iMovie. It doesn't work very well. Essentially, it does what you see here in these previews, is that it takes your vertical video and it puts it in a horizontal format, and it creates all this black space on either side of it, and that doesn't look great. So in CapCut here, if you go over to Ratio, and this is a free program, you don't have to pay to use this at all. You saw also this is the one that Nina uses on her Instagram Reels. There's a couple of different things that you can do here, including Instagram posts, but the one you're probably looking for is this 9:16 ratio, which is typical for TikTok. So let's see if that worked. Yeah, so this is just from like a comedy skit that I made for my Instagram recently about what happens when I tell people what my job is, which is, for some reason, they get very, very confused and seem to not believe that I should have the job that I have, or they think I'm much younger than I actually am. And I get a kick out of that, so I made a little video about it. We're not really going to watch any of this. CapCut works basically the same as the other editor. You can see that if you hover over the middle of your clip here, you can split it, and now it's two different pieces of video. You can, if you want, create transitions between them. This was a dialogue between two characters, so I just had them go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It was really quite easy to do. Again, you can control the audio here if you want to turn it off. You could layer video clips if you wanted to do that. Here, the opacity controls are very easy, so you can see how it plays with the layers between the two videos. You can throw a mask on there if you want to, which is to split the two frames, or do something like that, or something like that. I guess I could do something like this. Throw a little heart mask on there. That's cute. But yeah, there's lots of little things that you can do. So we're going to be working with a video track, maybe an audio track, depending on how you choose to record your audio. When I make video content for Instagram, I just record with my cell phone mic. Right now I'm using a Yeti for this video here, and I usually do for my YouTube videos. But yeah, there's all kinds of different options that you can use here. They have audio that you can use, stock audio, photos that you can put in. You can layer in text, captions, stickers, all kinds of different things. But mainly what you would be using this for is just to cut up your video and to give it a more dynamic presentation than maybe just, say, like filming yourself talking for 2 to 3 minutes straight or something like that. So that's essentially it for these kinds of projects. If you want to make a vlog on YouTube, you would be working with iMovie in horizontal video, and you would be using some of iMovie's editing techniques to create a more engaging and dynamic format than just having one talking head on camera for 5 to 10 minutes or however long you decide you want your vlog to be. And if you're working on a platform like TikTok or Instagram Reels, then you would be working with a vertical video editor. That one we just looked at would work fine. And trying to produce something either that's like, Hank's content, where it's not very heavily edited and it's more grounded in his personality, or Nina's content where she's doing a lot of, kind of quick edits to work in things like, visual jokes and gags, but also kind of communicating a little bit of her personal identity through the different cuts as well. Let me know if you've got questions. Post them up on the Discord. I'd be happy to answer anything that I can, or find you answers for things that I don't have answers for. And happy vlogging.